Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, whether live or on the web. And we welcome you to tonight's discussion on the latest in the world of mobile TV. Now, this event is the product of a great deal of hard work from a number of folks, both on the NAB staff, including Sinead Crichton, Robert DeLeon, and Michael Katcherisian, Michael K, as we call him. I probably should have stuck with that. That was my bad. And also members of our marketing team, as well as from our partners at NATAS. I would like to welcome the local NATAS DC chapter who are joining us today and give a warm thank you to Cynthia Ziden, who had the idea initially for this event and contacted us, and she will also be handling the webcast and Q&A tonight. Thank you, Cynthia. I also want to give a special thanks to Ann Shelley, who has worked tirelessly on behalf of mobile TV for what must feel like to Ann decades. We have the good fortune to present to you tonight a group of mobile TV experts from across the industry. These individuals understand the exciting and essential future that mobile TV represents and will share their experiences as they work to transform our industry from existing largely in the living room and bedroom to one that serves viewers anywhere they may find themselves and in the most spectrally efficient manner. For those of you who are somewhat new to this technology, mobile TV is a reliable means to bring live, local news, sports, and entertainment to the same audience broadcasters have been reaching in their homes for more than 60 years. The difference is that mobile TV takes this broadcast signal to the mobile devices that we've all come to rely on as well. Now, the appeal of mobile video is clear. Whereas it was once thought that video may never take hold on the small screen, handheld device users clearly in increasing numbers are consuming video much like they are texting or talking. And as mobile video use continues to grow, a critical question for broadcasters is what role, if any, do we want to play in the mobile world? In my view, TV broadcasters have a tremendous opportunity to play an integral role in the mobile universe. Not only does mobile TV increase our relevance, but we can offer a unique and efficient delivery service that does not eat into expensive mobile data plans. Mobile TV is already available in nearly 40 markets, serving approximately 60% of the US population in a relatively short time. And this is all before mobile TV proponents have ever launched a large-scale coordinated promotional campaign. And that's finally underway now, as this fall we see the first such campaign, one that combines the power of mobile TV with the appeal of a new mobile device, as you can see on demonstration in the back, the AudioVox mobile TV receiver. The AudioVox receiver turns smartphones and tablets into portable televisions, an extremely attractive combination for consumers. Our speakers tonight will elaborate on the market and the promise of mobile TV from a variety of perspectives, including interesting innovations and the technical developments that will allow for additional services to be provided to consumers. We'll hear first from Rick Ducey, who's the Managing Director of BIA Kelsey, supervising corporate strategy, research, consulting practices, and BIA Kelsey's continuous advisory service programs. Rick, as many of you know, brings over 30 years of management experience and expertise to this role, as he is an expert in digital media innovations, competitive new strategies, and new product development and new business models. Salil Dalvi, right here immediately to my right, is the co-general manager of Mobile Content Venture and senior VP of Digital Distribution, overseeing NBC Universal's interest in Dyle Mobile TV. In that capacity, Dalvi helps manage all strategy, product, PR, and marketing efforts for the joint venture. Prior to his work in mobile, Dalvi worked in NBC's corporate business development team, helping the company evaluate media technology and launch new digital products. And last but certainly not least, Sam Thiene is the Vice President of Policy Innovation for Capital Broadcasting. Sam's focus is on strategic media applications, and he is currently focusing on mobile wireless content delivery, smart TV, and internet distribution models. Sam has over 19 years of experience in the high-tech world of computers and communications and serves on the board of a number of entrepreneurial media startups. Prior to his current role, Sam held management positions with mobile development, satellite, digital television, web development, interactive video, and other companies. So the way this will work tonight, each presenter will give a short 10-minute presentation, and then we'll have some Q&A. I've got some questions I want to grill them on, and I'm sure the audience as well, and those watching the webcast, please send in your questions as well. So with that, I will introduce Rick Ducey.
Great, thank you, Rick. It's a great pleasure to be introduced by Rick. I think that's a wonderful name. So I'm Rick Ducey, Managing Director of BIA Kelsey, as Rick just mentioned. And what I would like to do is talk about the market opportunity for local broadcasters in mobile video. And it's not going to be square on based on the technology that we're going to be talking and learning more about tonight, but it's really from a more general perspective about what's happening in mobile video. That's the opportunity that is already unfolding from an advertiser perspective and from a consumer perspective. So this technology that we'll be learning more about tonight isn't happening in a vacuum. It's already happening within a marketplace that is fairly vibrant, as Rick was saying in his opening comments. So there's some relevancy, there's some context, there's already some trajectory happening. So happily, this is kind of a new technology that doesn't have to invent all of its own space. It can claim its own rightful position within an already growing marketplace. So from our perspective as an analyst firm, that's sort of exciting. There's a lot of kind of interesting possibilities there. So my job to start off tonight is I want to talk about a few kind of basic ideas. I'll present some data and some insights around these few points and end up with some summary comments. So one thing I want to do is talk about when we say mobile video briefly, as Rick said, talk a little bit about that ecosystem from sort of a high level, just kind of the parts and pieces and how they fit together. Then I'd like to talk about consumer interest in mobile video. And from a broadcaster, a local broadcaster perspective, particularly, one of the high kind of business impact area is local news. So what's happening with local news? Is there an intersection between this technology of mobile video, that platform, and a really highly preferred type of content from local audiences, local news? So talk a little bit about that specifically, but generally about consumer interest. And then I want to conclude with some estimates, some forecasts about the business opportunity for local broadcasters. What kind of dollars are we talking about from a business perspective here? So I'll start off with this headline: TV viewing is being disruptive. TV viewing is being disrupted, and that sort of has a negative connotation. Maybe a different way to spin this is to say TV is beautiful and wonderful and people love it. However different many ways we allow consumers to expose themselves, to consume, to manage video content, they do it and they love it. So what's happened over the past several years, really fairly recently in the history of video, is we've given the marketplace, audiences and advertisers, more different ways to use video. And the more different ways we make video available to the marketplace, the more people say, yes, I'll take that too. So more options creates more overall viewing, kind of interestingly. Where does all that viewing time come from? Who knows? Part of it comes out of sleep, part of it comes out of work. But of course what we're seeing is simultaneous activities. People are doing more than one thing at once. And with video, there's this rise of the phenomenon of second screen. So people have 2, sometimes 3, and even more screens. So we count all of that viewing on top of each other. So that explains a lot of the increase in video consumption. So with all the wonderful technology, all the different ways we can get video, all the devices and platforms and kind of business cases, is it advertising supported? Is it subscription supported? Is it loyalty supported? You kind of have earned media in there. Live TV, regular kind of old-fashioned over-the-air broadcast TV is by far the dominant part of the video diet for people around the world, not just in this country. But there are more alternatives. And again, I'll use that word alternative, but it's really actually complement. People are adding more different things. It's not subtractive. We did a big study summarizing almost 150 different studies about video viewing, and the answer again and again and again is the more times you add video options, people just add that to the overall diet. Some of the things are that are interesting distinctions here. I'll pick a couple things. Live TV campaigns can be combined with mobile and online video to reach viewers in new ways, and that's what we're going to hear about tonight. That can add value in a number of different ways. There's also there's an interaction between the type of video platform, what network is being delivered on, and what device is being consumed on, and the content. And the viewer demographic or kind of the type of viewer in that viewing circumstance. So kind of quickly doing an inventory, households have a lot of different ways to watch traditional TV, but they have 2 or 3 times as many ways to watch connected TV, internet TV. There's a large number of TV viewers in this country, about 300 million. Online video viewing internet video, TCP/IP kind of video, is growing very quickly and catching up. So about 2/3 of the regular TV audience, so to speak, is already matched by the internet video experience. So that's a fast-growing part of the video marketplace. And watching online video is growing quickly too. According to Nielsen data, just in the summer of 2012, just under 40 billion video streams were watched. And now it's up to, in July 2013, almost 50 billion video streams watched. So a lot of video clips get watched. Some of that's short form, some of it's long form. And when we have video content, as much as we love video content, advertisers also love to capture those video audiences because video is incredibly impactful, not just from a narrative or news and information perspective, but for telling an advertiser story, getting that value proposition going. So wherever there's video content, advertisers are going to find their way into that. And you can see video ads have doubled year over year between July 12 and July 13, this past 13. So there's going to be more ads served, which is interesting. There's this relationship between supply and demand and how that impacts economics, but we'll talk a little bit about that going forward. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide, but basically there is this new delivery system we're going to talk more about. We look at that when we forecast the marketplace going out to 2018. What does this mean in terms of advertising and local marketing spending and where audiences are going to be? Bottom line here is that it's kind of early in the game for this new mobile digital television technology from local broadcasters. But again, they're playing into a big and expanding game, mobile video and online video, all the different characteristics that go along with that. So to put some pictures to some of these words, here's a graphic. This comes from Nielsen in their cross-channel, their cross-channel platform report. And basically the dark bars at the bottom, that's kind of regular old live TV. The next biggest bar, which is quite small, is time-shifted TV. So that's what we used to call DVR. I record it and I play it back at some point. But now that DVR isn't just a box, it's a cloud service. And so any kind of video on demand service, that's that next bar. So that gets credited as a regular Nielsen rating with your local TV news if it's viewed within 3 days, so C3 ratings. And then on top of that, there's internet video and mobile video. So that's the anatomy of video in the marketplace. Mostly it's live TV. And these newer forms of video that are so exciting are actually relatively small in terms of hours consumed. But what's interesting about them, and let me just go back one. So the big news here is that regular live TV is by far the major force in the video marketplace. But if I take, if I take just the top parts, the newer parts of the video marketplace, if I were to take that very top few bars, the small ones, and set them down by themselves, it would look kind of like this. So here we have time-shifted TV, that VOD TV, that's growing from 9.5 to 13.4. That's hours per month, so that's growing very rapidly. And then if you look at the other components here, internet video and mobile video, also growing over time between 2010 and 2013. So the biggest growth in our boxes got clipped off a little bit here, but mobile video, 97.6%, that's the biggest growth. So tiny part of the bars in the previous chart, but looking within that, what's happening? It's growing like crazy. So as humans, we tend to be attracted to movement. So that's kind of where our eye goes at mobile. Very impressive. And then the time-shifted TV also growing. People are watching more. They watch the 6 o'clock news at 7:15. Mobile usage is high consumption, high growth, on certain platforms, but it does distribute a little bit differently depending upon the demographic. As I suppose we might expect, it's the youngsters, 12 to 17, that will consume the most mobile video. They seem to have a third hand, which is a mobile device. I'm not sure how they hold everything, but they're always eyes on that screen, and that screen increasingly is watching mobile. What's a little bit interesting, if you look across the rest of the demographic groups, at least until you get to the 50 to 64 group, it's actually relatively stable. So almost invariant across the rest of the age groups, there's a good steady diet of mobile video. Okay, looking at news specifically, if we look at some of the Pew research data, tracking this over time, going back to 1991 and fast forwarding to 2012, what's happening with news? So back in the good old days, 1991, live TV, linear TV was killer. That's the top bar there. If you want news, you go to TV. That's where you get it. So that's trended down over the years. And if you look at that bottom line, that has that proverbial hockey stick shape to it, that's mobile video. I mean, that's taking off fast. So mobile video, high growth, still relatively small overall consumption, but high growth. And we see a little bit of distribution across the demographic groups, younger groups using it much more. But what kind of content are people really attracted to? And mobile video viewers love their news. That's the fastest growing area, digital and mobile news. So these charts have a lot of data in them. I'm just going to pick out a couple of different things. We do forecasting at my company. So we looked at in 2013, by the end of this year, what's our estimate for how advertising gets spent across 12 different media platforms. Then if we look forward to 2017, across those 12 different media platforms, how will advertising be spent then? So let me just pick out two segments. If you look at the bottom, kind of the 6 o'clock position, maybe 5 o'clock position in 2017, TV broadcasting, we forecast will get about 14.8% of the advertising spend in local markets in 2013. And that will actually decline a little bit by 2017 down to 14.5%. So if all of the advertising dollars spent geo-targeted to local markets, TV gets a huge segment of it, but it's flattish to down a little bit. Then if you look at the kind of 12 o'clock part of these pie charts, the mobile, in 2013, the ad spend in mobile video, we think is going to be 2.1% of the total ad pie. In just a few years, by 2017, that's going to go from 2.1% to 7.1%. So that's 5% lift in just a few years. So as a broadcaster, we know people love mobile, we know people love video, we know they love news. There's a really significant opportunity to go after advertising revenue that's going to be spent on the market on mobile video. That's a pretty significant opportunity for broadcasters who are very well positioned from a business perspective, from a content perspective, from an advertiser relationship perspective, from an audience relationship and branding perspective to get access to a lot of that money. And I won't go into this in detail for time reasons, but again, you can get into some of the specifics and it gets even more interesting. Within automotive, typically one of the top 1 or 2 categories for broadcasters for advertising revenue, big. Automotive loves TV. So overall, it's maybe 14.8% in 13 for share of the ad pie. Within automotive advertising revenue pie, TV is about 31%, and that's going to grow by 2017. So automotive is a particularly interesting category for TV. Plain old linear live TV is going to grow in advertising. Then if you look at mobile video, it's also going to grow. 1% in 2013, that's going to grow to 4.4%. So again, broadcasters have an ability to have an unfair advantage to capture more of this growing pie. Another category in retail, similar kind of story. You can see that mobile is also going to grow very rapidly here from 0.6% within that mobile ad spend category. Again, typically one of the top 2 or 3 categories in advertisers for TV broadcasting, from 0.6 to 4.0. So from an advertising perspective and a broadcaster perspective, you can kind of zero in on some key audience segments, some key content types, and some key advertiser types and put together a very convincing strategic plan for how you can grow your revenue in your business and then overall evaluation. So I hear a lot of times broadcasters say, okay, digital, I get it's high growth, but Rick, you show me that chart where live TV is huge. That's where all the advertising is going, and all this digital, mobile, video stuff is kind of interesting, but I have to focus on my main business. So the thing is, I encourage broadcasters to kind of flip that on its head. You take the regular TV where the big spend is and the big audience is, that's great. The research is coming out again and again very convincingly that if you take that broadcast TV campaign and marry it to digital video and mobile video, you get what advertisers and marketers call higher overall lift, higher brand awareness, higher brand favorability, higher intention to purchase, and higher actual purchase. So here's just one such study of, again, we reviewed over 100 of these studies. TV only, did you remember that ad? Did you remember that video ad? People will say 50%. Take that same creative execution and put it across TV, PC, phone, and tablet, and you get a 50% greater lift in that recall, from 50% to 70, almost 3/4, almost 75%. So this is one chart, a line. If you take this in combination with everything else I've showed you, it's like, oh my gosh, the power that's available to local broadcasters to take video and mobile and take that cross-platform, unbelievable from a content perspective or from an advertising perspective. So to wrap up quickly, video is being disrupted. Some people see that as a negative turn, but it's an exciting part of video ecosystem evolution. We want ecosystems to evolve. Otherwise, they stagnate and die. Video is anything but stagnant and dying. It's very exciting, very vibrant. Mobile is a high growth platform from an audience perspective, from an advertiser perspective. Mobile video is viewed by the market, by advertisers, and by consumers as more device centric. It used to be that each device had its own business model. A TV set to rabbit ears had a business model advertising. Cable was connected to a set-top box. That set-top box had a business model, basic and premium subscriptions. Now the business models are tied to apps. What can I do on my mobile device? It's multifunctional. I can do a lot of different things with it. So the mobile video market is device-centric, and what apps that device can support. And those apps could be software apps, or they could be dongles. And finally, broadcasters don't have to pick a single platform. Pick them all. Play in all those things. Cross-screen is an enormous success story already happening. It's only going to get bigger, and from a lot of different viewpoints, broadcasters could be at the head of that parade. Thanks very much, Rick.
Great. Thanks so much for having me here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Dyle Mobile TV. And before I do that, I was thinking through some of this stuff, and it's very interesting. And it struck me that we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of my having worked in mobile. I remember when we first started pitching mobile to our management at NBC, pre-NBC Universal at the time. It was flip phones, postage stamp sized video, pixelated. Everyone asked that question of, are people actually going to do this over the long term? And I think these numbers clearly show that the reality is starting to emerge, and it's really exciting to see the things that seemed like fantasy back 10 years ago are really not just real, but also becoming a material part of the business landscape here. So it's very exciting to be part of that innovation. So what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about Dyle and explain the platform very briefly, but also talk more specifically about what we've been doing over the past really 3 years to try and make mobile TV a reality for the broadcast industry. So the proposition of mobile TV is simple. Get a tremendous amount of content on your mobile device, whether it's a smartphone or whether it's a tablet. And the real benefit to the consumer is, first and foremost, I mean, this is somewhat a pharmaceutical ad to some extent. The punchline is simple. Get live TV on your mobile device without using your data plan. And that's a big deal for the average consumer, because as more content becomes available on their mobile devices, they're going to have to start looking and figuring out whether or not they're going to be paying extra for the connectivity associated with that. Broadcast, because it's a one-to-many platform, allows the consumer to just take that thought completely out of the equation. So we think that that's a big opportunity. But beyond that data aspect of it, that pricing aspect of it, the ability of the consumer to have content wherever they are, the flexibility to use their shows wherever they are, the connection to the community, the emergency use case, we think that all of those things sort of wrap together as a winning proposition for mobile TV as a whole. Where Dyle plays an important role in this is we've tried to play a role to help commercialize mobile television by bringing new products to the marketplace, by organizing the marketplace in a way such that it's beneficial for really the entire ecosystem between content owners, TV stations, and the device manufacturers and the retailers and the consumers. We want to create value for everyone across the ecosystem, and we think that Dyle is really try to make a go of the marketplace in that way, and trying to make it useful for everyone from top to bottom. So what's most exciting, though, in the here and now is, number one, we've got a new product that we've launched, the AudioVox mobile TV device, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But really what's especially exciting is that for the first time, the industry has really embarked on a coordinated, focused effort at trying to create awareness for this new service with consumers. And in the past, it's been kind of a gee whiz type of thing where, hey, I can get mobile TV on my mobile device, and it's been sort of a backroom industry insider type of thing. For the first time, we're really focused on making consumers aware of what the broadcast industry is doing to make television available to them on their mobile device. So we've got really a significant number of broadcast partners participating in the advertising campaign, devoting hundreds of gross rating points to promoting Dyle Mobile TV, and again, communicating that clear, simple message of get live television on your mobile device without using your data plan and without having to log into a Wi-Fi hotspot. As you see here, this is across a large number of markets. We've got 12 markets, and we've focused on the markets where the value proposition for the service is greatest, where you have at least 3, and in many cases 4 of the big 4 broadcast networks available on the platform. So again, we're thrilled about the participation from the industry. We're thrilled about the opportunity for the consumer. And most importantly, we think that the product is a winning product. It's a good product that consumers will enjoy. And what's exciting about this relative to some of the other mobile TV devices that have been available in the past is that this is a product that works with multiple types of devices, whether it's a smartphone, whether it's a tablet, whether it's an Apple device, whether it's an Android device. It works with all of those. And so with a very simple user experience, a consumer can buy this $99 device on Amazon.com and select retail stores, and they pair it with their smartphone or their tablet, and they're off to the races. They are watching live television, and again, not having to look at their bandwidth meter to figure out if they've used their allocation for the month. So again, the marketing is where we're really excited. We wanted to take a real focused effort around marketing the Dyle platform, and again, the goal is to build awareness, to drive consumers to purchase the devices at retail, and keep consumers using mobile TV. And we wanted to be very focused in who we approached. Live television is an important part of the ecosystem, but it's a part of the ecosystem. But we think it is important, especially for the news viewers, for Hispanic audiences, and then for people who are in the market to make sure that this is another television set when there's a weather emergency. We wanted to make sure that we were really targeting all of those specific audiences with our message. And again, as I mentioned before, we were focused on the markets where there was a very clear value proposition around channel choice. And so we're going to be going big through the course of the holiday season. We've started already in late October. We're going to be going through the end of the holiday season, and we're excited to see where this takes us. Our hope is that this will result in significant number of device sales, and most importantly, get the word out that mobile TV is something that's valuable for consumers and that they can enjoy for themselves. So with that, I would pass on to Sam.
Great. Well, I'm very happy to be here and want to offer my kudos to Salil and the entire Dyle team and the work that they've done. They really have been pushing forward, and from a capital broadcasting perspective, we're not members of Dyle's, but we certainly have an appreciation for the work that they're doing. So I'm Sam Matheny. I am the Vice President of Policy and Innovation for Capital Broadcasting Company, and I'm really going to talk about 3 things as part of my discussion. And one is sort of Capital's take and some of the stuff that we have done, and then another is our participation in Mobile 500 and what Mobile 500 is up to, and then third is going to be the Mobile Emergency Alert System and the work that has been done there, and I really think that's an exciting development, not just for mobile DTV, but for all of broadcasting. So. So, really what I like to say is if you're not mobile, you're standing still. And now is no time to stand still. With the pace of change and the advent of devices and the new ways that you can consume and the way that technology is evolving, now is the time to certainly to move forward. So if I look back, Salil talked about some of these phones, and these are the phones that we at Capital Broadcasting launched our very first mobile services on back in 2004. And so you do have those flip phones, and you are talking about, we were really excited because we had a color screen, right? We can put our Doppler on there. Not video, because it really wasn't ready yet, but we could show you the image. And so going back to 2004, we got very involved in mobile and very excited about the opportunities it would present. And then sort of going forward back in 2008, and this is before there was a standard, we did a demo at WRAL where we put one of the candidate standards, I guess I'll say, on the air and did a demonstration. And we invited all the carriers, we invited local politicians, we invited our car dealers and our big advertisers in, and we said, hey, come take a look at this. This is the future of television. And they really liked it. And they were like, this is cool. And we put them on a bus and we drove them around and we proved we weren't trying to fake them out, and that it was real and it was legit. And even the carriers, I had folks from Sprint, from Verizon, from AT&T come up to me and say, hey, we ought to talk about what kind of role this can play on mobile devices in a real way. So, and then we went on the air, and just as we were rolling out mobile television, again, very bullish on it. I'll play this. This was the first spot we did to promote mobile DTV for WRAL.
WRAL welcomes you
to the future of broadcasting.
television that moves with you. Live TV that requires no internet. Mobile TV that requires no cell plan. It's called Mobile DTV. So when you start seeing mobile TV products on the market, know we're already there. WRAL, North Carolina's first mobile DTV broadcaster. Now simulcasting everywhere.
And so that was our first effort to start saying, hey, this is coming and these are available. You may have also noticed the buses there. We are still up and live today on buses with a system in downtown Raleigh where the downtown circulator has mobile DTV installed, and we're doing data casting. Which is, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit in the context of mobile EAS, but we're delivering data as well as a linear video solution. So when we think about mobile and broadcasting, we think it just goes together, right? It really is a great fit. It reestablishes, if you will, the relationship of the local broadcaster with their consumer in a direct and tangible way. Every device is a television. It is a TV everywhere solution, which is, I guess TVE is now the new in vogue term. And then, as Salil really pointed out, it's spectrum efficient, right? And so that's certainly a big deal. And so that led us to our involvement, because we know as Capital Broadcasting we really can only do so much alone. And so we are proud members of the Mobile 500 Alliance and helped with the development of the MyDTV offering. The Mobile 500 Alliance has, through a lot of the mergers and acquisitions have been taking place, has been in a bit of a reset mode lately, or a transition mode. Reset's probably not the right word, but a transition mode as the folks at Fisher were providing a lot of the leadership, and Hubbard is really taking on that role. And Susan Wins is here tonight, and we have some information in the back as well. But at our last meeting here in October, installed all new officers, or new officers. So we got Rebecca Duke from Lynn, Mark Aiken of Sinclair, Rob Hubbard of Hubbard, Peter Markham of Granite, and then Jimmy Goodman of Capital Broadcasting. So you're talking about a lot of mainstays in the broadcast industry, in these medium-sized broadcast companies that are very involved in mobile and committed to its success. And, Mobile 500 is because we almost have 500 stations as members. This would be a map of the type of coverage that our membership provides. So really, pretty consequential in terms of the number of stations that are involved. And this is the device that we're primarily working with, and we have these in the back, and it is the Elgato ITV device, and we do have this deployed now. And it's been some trials that were done in Seattle and in Minneapolis, and as well as that we're doing in Raleigh. And this is the functionality that it provides. So you've got live television, you've got DVR, or you can record, you've got advertising outside that's built into the application environment. You got program guide, and as well as access to social and other video contents from a VOD perspective. So really, again, a rich user experience that's available through my DTV, and just a broad number of partners all the way from the encoding to the app that were involved in making this happen. I want to just quickly sort of show some of the stats. This is usage from the activity in Minneapolis. And in Minneapolis, they had 4 stations on the air, and they were averaging 31 minutes a week of additional television viewing that came from this. And you can see the peak viewing time was around 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And then in Seattle, you had 3 stations on the air, and they averaged about 20 minutes of viewing time. And then the average between the two was 28 minutes. And you see in Seattle that the prime time was really the time that folks were using it a great deal. And then what I would say is, obviously more channels equals more viewing. But the folks at Fisher kind of looked at this and said, well, wait a minute, what does that additional viewing mean in prime time? And what it could mean is real dollars when they extrapolated it out, and you're starting to talk about millions of dollars in revenue that can be associated from or attributed to putting mobile on the air and building that additional distribution. And so here's some of what we're seeing in Raleigh, and this trial is underway. So our data is not as in depth as what was provided from Minneapolis. But this is where folks in Raleigh are using their devices. This is not a pie chart. You're going to see overlapping. So folks are using it at home, they're using it at work, and they're also using it in the vehicle. And they're not just using it in the market. We're approaching 20% of folks are taking it with them and trying to use it when they're in D.C. or New York or L.A. or Atlanta or wherever they may be going. So folks are making it part of their content consumption habits, and we're really pretty focused on the iOS as the platform with this particular dongle and the trial, and we've got a large majority of folks are really using it on the tablet computers or the iPad and iPad Mini together, and then we've got fully a quarter of folks have installed the software on multiple devices. And so, if they've got their phone with them, they'll plug it in and use it on that. If they've got their tablet with them, they'll use it there. And it's, again, becoming part of the content consumption pattern. And folks are overwhelmingly satisfied. So what do I mean by overwhelmingly satisfied? So when we did our poll, we had a full 70% or better say that they were very satisfied with the service, with the remainder saying satisfied. We did not have any responses that were less than someone being satisfied, which we found very encouraging, especially given the limited channels that we're running. But we, the biggest complaint we got was not enough channels, and the second biggest complaint is not enough battery life. Right? So, you read into that, and it's people want to watch more content and they want to watch longer. And so the things that they're complaining about are things where they're saying, give me more. So we're pretty excited about that. And then when we look at the overall opportunity and what role does, and Rick was talking about some of this, is how does what we can do with mobile DTV fit into the overall mobile ecosystem? And if you look at the mobile broadband landscape today, I mean, the mobile business is 180 billion plus, with about half of that ARPU, or average revenue per user, coming from data services, and then about over half of those data services are really mobile video. So if you think about that, mobile video today is a $45 billion business. We should be getting that pie. And we have to be a part of that solution because, as Rick said, it's only going to grow. So when we think about mobile broadband and you think about mobile DTV as part of a mobile broadband solution, you start to think about some of the other things that are possible. And I talked about data casting and what we were doing on the buses and in terms of providing our weather information, news tickers, and things like that. But this is really taking it another step, and I'm really excited about MEAS, which is the Mobile Emergency Alert System. And we've, at Capital, have tried to play a leadership role in this. And I want to play this, and this will tell you, a very real example of why MEAS is important. If we could play this video clip, please.
Can you confirm that?
I can't confirm that. One of the things we've had challenges with is that our cell phone service and our telephone service throughout the city has been dead. As you can imagine, immediately after the tornado struck, I couldn't even call my own cabinet secretaries. We had to use handheld radios to get in touch with people, but it was very challenging with the phone networks itself. Power's been out.
And so this happens and will continue to happen, but it happens over and over. Obviously, this is the governor of Oklahoma talking about what happened in Moore, Oklahoma. But even if you go back and you look at Sandy, 25%, Hurricane Sandy, 25% of the cell towers were knocked offline. And so having mobile digital television offering also a mobile broadband delivery that includes emergency alerts is a key offering, and these are sort of the reasons the reasons why. And I'll kind of skip to the last one, which is the alert system that's available today. Even when it works, it only provides 90 characters worth of information, right? That's not even a tweet's worth, okay? So even when it works at its best, and I don't have a sample up here, but they only have 90 characters. Well, guess what they use those 90 characters to tell you? Check local media, right? I'm serious. So, when you look at we are local media, we have access, we have the distribution infrastructure, we can have a mobile broadband solution that rides on our towers via mobile digital television. We've really got something that's powerful, and I think that really speaks to the larger business opportunity as well. But so here's what a mock-up, right? This is an example of what a cell service might look at, and then okay, whoop, there's Sandy, right? She's coming on in, and bam. All right, every tower in red is like completely destroyed. All the yellow ones are overloaded, right? Because everybody's trying to get on them, and so now they're rendered helpless. But with mobile digital television and mobile EAS, you now have full coverage, and you've got broadband distribution of life-saving information that can be distributed even when the cell service gets knocked out. So it's very complementary. And in addition, I want to show now the type of information that can be delivered to a mobile phone. This is an LG Optimus device with a mobile DTV tuner chip in it, receiving mobile EAS alerts. If we could play this video, please. You're watching over-the-air WRAL television on this device. This banner here is not actually embedded in the video. This is a banner that has been delivered via a data broadcast. It's actually interactive, so I will click on the banner and you'll see that a menu of content comes up. These are being delivered and stored locally on the device. We'll click on the current utility information, and in this web browser you have links across the top of the page, and I can click on Duke Energy outages and it's going to take me to a map.
of where the outages are that Duke Energy is working on. When I'm done with that page, I can come back and I can click view on the current radar image. This is going to give you a view of exactly where the storm is right now. This one's really neat because it's a video.
Outbound traffic from the Outer Banks is heaviest on US 64 westbound through Dare County. Avoid those crowds by heading north to US 158 or south to 264.
You can click on county by county information, and we really think this one's really powerful because you can scroll through the different counties and you can see the text about what's happening, docks being ripped away, where the shelters are for each county, where they're down power lines, where roads might be closed. So lots of great information that can be delivered and is available on demand here.
So, again, a very different user experience when contrasted with 90 characters of text that says check local media. All of that was delivered via mobile DTV, no cell towers involved, right? Right there, continually updated on your device. And so, these guys, they're not waiting. They are where the growth that Rick was talking about is coming from. And so mobile DTV needs to be a big part of that and can be and should be a big part of that. So we're still very bullish on mobile DTV and are excited to be here today to share our experiences. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam, and to our panelists. What I'm going to do now is pose a few questions to our panelists and then open it up for both the webcast for anyone there who has questions or the folks in the audience here. I guess one thing that struck me in listening to the presentations is trying to figure out what might be the largest obstacles to adoption that you're seeing. And I guess I'll start with Salil. As you guys seem to be tackling the consumer campaign, what do you see as the largest obstacles to adoption?
Well, I think step one is awareness, and I think we're starting to address that in the promotion that we're doing in 12 markets. But the other two key ones are devices and the availability of devices, and the third is content and the availability of stations that are actually broadcasting in mobile.
And where do you feel like you've made the most progress? This goes for any other panelists. Where do you see the most movement, and where do you see the least?
I think we've done a lot of work in moving forward the ball that we have control over, which is bringing a product to market, promoting it in the markets where we have good coverage, having an application, creating a user experience, bringing in some initial early adopter consumer electronics companies. I think those are the areas where I think we've had the most success and we've made the most progress. And let's not minimize what we've accomplished, which is that we've, in addition to the other members of the broadcast industry, we've shown that the technology works and that it works in a real world format and with real live consumers. So that's a big deal. And so, I don't think you'd see big media companies putting their credibility on the line if we hadn't have done that. And I'm very proud of that accomplishment to this point.
And again, I'll open this up. Sam, I don't know if you'll start with this one, but sometimes you hear the question asked, as broadcasters also utilize other platforms like broadband to deliver video or whatever else news, and that still, broadcasters are still the most visited video websites for news and information. Some say, well, doesn't that conflict with the proposition for mobile TV? Others say, well, no, they're a complement. How do you see it?
Well, I think they're definitely complementary, and I think it's about trying to engage with your audience wherever and however you can. I think one of the things about streaming, as you begin to look at that, is it comes with substantial cost. And I think that if broadcasters will take the time to go and do an analysis on what it will cost them to reach that same audience by putting in a mobile DTV transmitter versus what they're going to have to pay to deliver unicast streams, the mobile digital television pays for itself, like that.
Well, along those lines, Rick, I'm putting you on the spot here. I don't know if you guys or you're aware of any research that talks about as consumer video becomes bigger, consumption becomes bigger, how big a factor is hitting your data limit or cost going to become for video consumers, do you think?
Well, I mean, you can look at the research, and to date, I mean, a lot of the plans now are moving towards this kind of 2 gigabytes delivered per month. And I think the research generally shows, the market experience shows that something 95+% of the consumers don't hit that limit. I myself use my smartphone a ton. And I don't come to that 2 gigabyte limit very often, but my daughter hits it about halfway through the month. So, that segment of the market, and you saw the demos about who's using the mobile video. So that's the cohort that, as we look forward into the future, is going to be ravenous around that video. So, kind of looking backwards, not too many people hit that the 2 gig monthly limit. But of the people that do hit it, it's going to be that younger video ravenous kind of segment. And as we saw in the age cohorts, that's relatively, it drops down, but it's relatively stable across the other cohorts. So I think the video behavior on mobile is going to grow, and we're going to start hitting that, consumers' monthly plans. So one of the limiting factors right now, it's kind of free. People think it's free. I pay my bill and it's no extra. As the experience comes to be that I have to pay for that video extra, or in the case of my daughter, she said, okay, data plan off, Wi-Fi on, because she said I just have to turn off the data service, and that she didn't like having to do that. So she wants to get to her content, and if the answer is with my data plan, I have to turn off the content that I want to have for 2 weeks this month, and 1 week next month, and 3 weeks the next month after that, who knows? So that's where I see it headed.
I would add to that, though, in that traditionally live television has only been available, even on digital devices, in the home. It's been really tethered usage. And as you see what they call TV everywhere move out of the home, that's what's going to trigger a lot of the data usage. And again, I look at my day. I have an app that I've downloaded to make sure I'm not going over my data cap. And I think that's an issue that's going to continue to emerge in just the average consumer household.
Well, along those lines, and back to you, Rick, how do you think mobile TV stacks up against other video services in the market, streaming to cell phones via cell networks, LTE broadcast we're hearing more and more about, and Wi-Fi? Where do you think see the trends heading?
So I'll give you kind of 2 quick perspectives. From the consumer perspective, a lot of the technologies in the attic or in the basement or in a closet somewhere, they don't really care how the video gets presented, as long as it works. If it doesn't work, then they start getting mad at somebody. So whatever the transportation network is, to deliver that video to the device, until there's a reason for them to understand what's going on there, I don't know if they really care. But some of the branding and value proposition campaigns that are going on around, like Hurricane Sandy, or being able to watch your content outside the home, that'll start to establish a value proposition with the broadcaster kind of instance. But generally, I think that consumers sort of see this as an app more than a device or a network. And people will follow their content and their brands that they really are bonded to wherever it is. So I mean, channel WRAL is a set of call letters. It's a channel number, but it's all over the place. It's on mobile DTV. It's on one position on the cable, another position on satellite. People get it on the web, on TCP/IP. But it's their focus on that brand experience of local news and the network content and whatever else flows through it.
It's interesting hearing the various perspectives here, and Sam, hearing about mobile EAS, the big push for news, information, weather, times of critical needs. What do you all think? Maybe starting with you, but I think I know the answer you're going to give. Is going to win the day in terms of more consumers are going to click in. I want to adopt mobile TV because of X content. Will it be sports? Will it be one that will be mobile EAS? Is that the thing that's going to push people over the edge, or entertainment?
Well, I think it's going to be any number of things, and it will be what content do they like, right? For me, it might be sports. For Salil, it might be entertainment. Rick might be a news junkie, and so. But those are all things that local broadcasters provide, and I think that it's about having the best available network and the best available access, and mobile DTV certainly plays in that. as great as I think mobile EAS is, I don't know that somebody is going to run out and plunk down that money just so they can get mobile EAS. What I do believe is that once they have to use it, they will never want to live without it, because it is so superior to anything else that's out there in terms of emergency alerting. And so it's kind of you hope that you don't have to use it, and they're not probably going to run out and buy it for that, but then once they need it, they're going to be like, oh, wow, I'm really glad I had access to that level of information on my mobile device.
So I don't know if you guys have done any work on this or.
I don't think it's either or in all of this. Mobile TV is very useful for the live use case, and I think it's a critical component of that, and we can't dismiss how important live is to the overall media mix. And on demand is a reality as well. So we can't bury our heads in the sand and say, all right, we're going to do mobile TV and not do IP-based delivery. It is very much a complementary set of services that any broadcaster should deliver. What I would say, though, is that the broadcaster and the broadcast industry has a very unique opportunity here as someone that is currently using their spectrum and that is currently using their delivery pipe to deliver one form of video, using that to expand to the place where their consumers are going, which is mobility and mobile. It just only makes sense in our view.
So here's the thing with consumers. It's another thing. Mobile DTV is another thing. It's Roku, it's Chromecast, it's the Blu-ray DVD player that has a Wi-Fi connection. It's a cable box. It's like, okay, so if I have a Roku box, why do I also need Chromecast? It's like, do they do the same job? Why should I spend another $35 in this case to get another device called Chromecast when I have a Roku box, or I have a Blu-ray DVD player that has a Wi-Fi connection, or I have a connected TV? That's kind of, I think, the imagery and the thinking process of what's in a consumer's mind. Then you say, oh, if I buy this device, I can get Netflix, or if I buy this device, I can get Hulu, or if I buy this device, I can get Amazon Plus. Got it. So the device connects me to the content I want. You put these little barriers in front of me to get to the content I want to get to. So from a branding and consumer kind of positioning perspective, that's the job for the broadcasters to do, is to say mobile DTV equals that content that you cherish. And so it's not just another device, it's the thing you have to use to get there.
Sam, I think, and I'm probably paraphrasing here, but you had the catchy slide that said if you're not mobile, you're standing still. Yep. Let's drill down on the standing still a little bit for a second. And actually, this was inspired by a question we had from our someone all the way from Albuquerque. So thank you on the webcast for watching. And Chris, I think Chris Schuler is the one who inspired me with this question. But and it talks about business models. So one of the reasons it's standing still is, what is the business case for mobile? Salil, I want to start with you with Dyle. I know you're in the midst of this big campaign. What's the business model? How are broadcasters going to make money on it? Where do they see that return? Is there a return? Is it just a necessary piece of the pie? How are you guys viewing that?
So I think the way we've thought about this is, we don't know what the future is going to bring, but we want to make sure that we build a system and a service that is compatible with multiple business models. And so where I personally think the market is going to go is towards an authenticated service, where if you are a cable or satellite customer, you will be able to receive this encrypted mobile broadcast at no additional cost. And that business model is essentially already in place as part of TV Everywhere for the existing industry. But I think we don't know if that's going to be where the consumer wants to go. And so the technology is capable of delivering an authenticated experience, a direct subscription experience, or a purely ad-supported experience. So I think we would be arrogant to say this is exactly where the business model is going to go. It's, is it going to be some mix of those three? Most likely. The most important thing we can do in the near term is make sure that we don't cut off the opportunity around any of those business models, and that we're building the technology and the systems and the insight to be able to accommodate any of those business models which align with where the consumer wants to be.
Sam?
So, our CEO, Jim Goodman, was, and I guess is, fond of saying, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing, right? And so the main thing is that we have to continue to serve our communities. And there's, from the charts that you presented about what's growing and what's shrinking, you know, we have to serve our communities through mobile. And that's the main thing. And I believe there will be free over-the-air components to that. There will be subscription components to that. There will probably be components that we haven't thought of yet. But we have to thank the ATSC for giving us a mobile standard that supports all of those and provides us with the flexibility to pursue the business models that we think are best.
You know, one of our jobs is to forecast out what the business opportunity is, where the money's going to flow, how and why. So what Salil says in terms of the different business models, it goes back to a point I was making too. Broadcasters don't have to pick one. Pick them all. Pick any set of them. They're all going to win. So it's an easy day in Las Vegas. Business people love the low-hanging fruit. So what's the low-hanging fruit? Sam showed it very, very clearly up here for the Fisher case in Seattle. There's a very efficient monetization scheme that broadcasters have, and love them or hate them, it's the Nielsen rating is the currency. If you can extend your distribution through a mobile platform for your live signal and get another 0.3 rating point, that's instant cash. Instant cash, no questions asked. If you can also do TV everywhere and have authentication kind of platforms, subscription platforms, different kinds of bundling, even loyalty. So if you give me your personal information, I will allow you to have on-demand viewing of my signal that I have the copyright to, and then you can take that marketing information that you've been permission to use and get into loyalty and transactional marketing, which is a whole different pie than what I was showing up there. I was showing advertising revenue. There's an equally large size pie around marketing spend, not just advertising spend. So there's high growth, high trajectory, high consumer engagement, and high payoff for advertising and marketers, and all of what we're talking about that's accessible to broadcasters.
In both Sam and Salil's presentations, we heard about there was a focus on devices, and that's obviously a key piece of this overall ecosystem. And we're getting some questions along these lines also from the webcast, including from Bill in DC. Shout out to Bill. I didn't plant this question. I don't know Bill, we have no connection. But one thing that people often talk about is how are you going to break the device logjam? I know the AudioVox device out there, we talked about the devices for the iOS system. Do you always see it as an external add-on, or is the hope and is there a likelihood that someday there'll be deals with telcos and in our devices there'll be the chips that are necessary to provide it?
I think smart businesses will look at where the consumers are, and they'll put features into their devices that consumers want. And so what we have to do as mobile TV people is to show that mobile TV is a viable consumer proposition. And the minute we are able to do that, I believe that the wireless industry will follow and demand that mobile TV tuners get incorporated into devices. I don't think that's I think it's very easy to say in the immediate term, well, there's no carrier relationship, so it's never going to scale. Look, we're in the first inning of this whole game, and so I think carriers are smart. They'll see if we as an industry do a good job of providing good content to consumers on devices that create a good experience for consumers. I think you'll see these tuners embedded in consumer electronics devices.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, in this country, it's a little bit unique relative to the rest of the world, where the rest of the world is familiar with this thing called a SIM card. That's an app in your phone, and you can plug in different things. Here, the carriers kind of control what goes on in the phone stack. Carriers definitely are part of the mix going forward. But again, going back to low-hanging fruit, last week in Laguna, NAB had its NAB Futures meeting. One of the speakers there was Anthony Wood, founder, CEO of Roku. So, kind of a quick, easy business idea is, okay, he wants more distribution for his box. His revenue model largely is tied to the box. What if we were to take one of those mobile DTV chips and put it in that box, and this new form factor is actually kind of an MDTV hotspot. So if that becomes part of the Roku box, that house becomes a hotspot. We know in early days, a lot of that mobile video viewing actually occurs at home as a sort of second screen. So you get that consumer habit where it's pretty easy, economical, and it has a high value add to the business case. Get that habit established at home. They leave the home. It's like, where'd my signal go? So you create that appetite to say, I got to have that dongle or that app on my phone.
I mean, I think there's one, the carriers are going to have they're going to have a need to have a more efficient way of distributing video content. And I think that we certainly can help in that regard. So they're going to have a business need. I think Salil's exactly right in terms of putting the content out there. And I think that we're, honestly at a time where, you've got a bit of folks waiting on each other to move. And the device folks want to see more channels on the air. The TV stations might want to see more devices available, and you can't be chicken and you can't lay an egg. We got to go.
Take it from a guy from North Carolina, come up with a good saying like that. I want to open it up. We have more questions from the web, but I don't know if anyone here. I don't want to discourage people from showing up, the version of the sports blackout rule. Is there anyone here who has questions for the panelists? We've got plenty from the web, so far-flung parts of the country. All right, so I'll go to some of these from Gina in South Carolina. Her question is, how will these devices work in rural areas? You're focused on the 12 or so markets I think you guys are launching in. Does it differ urban versus rural?
It all depends on the TV station in the market. So if a TV station is broadcasting in mobile, and the mobile signal roughly follows the contour of a traditional signal.
And someone who wants to remain anonymous, and you might want to take your personal guest who asked this, but what does mobile TV look like in relationship to the ATSC process, 3.0 process going on now? Are there a relationship between the two? How do you see them melding together, or are they at odds?
Well, I would say that they're complementary. I would say if you look at the ATSC exercises that are going on now, by every estimate, it's going to take some time. And mobile DTV is here today and works. And so it's important to be on the air now and to say, well, I'm just going to wait until something else happens. Well, what was the last slide I showed? Those kids aren't waiting. Our audience isn't waiting. We know ATSC 3.0 is going to take some time, and we can't wait because our audience isn't going to wait. So I think they're certainly complementary, and there's going to be a transition at some point, and how you get your mobile television will be part of that transition.
I'd just like to thank Mark Richer for that anonymous question.
I don't see you have anything.
I think Sam answered it beautifully.
Great. Mobile EAS, I want to return to that for a second if you haven't seen it in the back. And Sam, I've seen you give this presentation a few times, and I can always see people's eyes light up because of the current system we have in place, the CMAS system, and you get those annoying alerts that it's the 90 characters to one degree, but they also say check your local media, which is ironic. And they also go off in pretty generalized areas. I don't know, here in DC we had a series of flood warnings, and I never knew if my house was going under, and it turned out there was no flood, and it was in the middle of the night 20 times ago. It was really annoying. But the mobile EAS actually is a functionality that strikes me that people really would want. What do broadcasters have to do? Because it hasn't been something yet that's sort of widespread adoption. It's not where mobile TV is. What sort of, as for the broadcasters on the webcast and out here, what do they need to do to adopt that technology?
Sure. So mobile EAS was standardized earlier this year. Just yesterday, there's an implementation guide that was published by the MEAS I-team or implementation team at the ATSC. And so it is available for all broadcasters to have access to, and it will walk you through, hey, here's exactly what you need to do. Here's where you can get devices. Here's where you can get the equipment you need. You may already have some of the equipment you need. Here is content that you can look at that PBS developed for theirs, that WRAL developed for ours. Take it, build upon it, tweak it, make it your own, make it apply for what you're doing. All of that is out there and is available to you. So first and foremost, I'd say, get the implementation guide. For those of you in the room, I think we've got some in the back of the room that are available. And then for those of that are online, you can download them from the site. I think you will be genuinely impressed with what's possible. You saw a little bit of that in my video demo, but it's I'm sure that in the hands of more creative folks, you can come up with lots of even better examples.
Any questions from the audience? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, thanks, Jonathan.
So just a question for the panelists about kind of penetration rates, over time. It's probably in the long term than UPB. And of course, for more of the stations and more of the markets, I guess particularly the mid-sized markets that aren't already on, turning it on and installing the extra transmitter.
So for those who couldn't hear on the web, the question was about penetration rates in those markets, the markets that are turning it on.
So I think the good news here is that it's entirely up to the broadcast industry. And to the extent that TV stations decide to make those investments in lighting up stations, it'll grow incredibly fast. If broadcasters do not light up stations, it will not grow fast. It's simple as that.
Any other questions? So go ahead.
My question is, are we kind of behind the curve? I mean, obviously Wi-Fi has been moving faster than anything, and everybody's trying to move it by whatever they're doing by either Wi-Fi or some tethered signal. Are we behind the curve at this point, or is it the potential is what you're kind of trying to get us to look at? Is that what the group is trying to do?
That's an excellent question. Go ahead.
Well, I'd say no, and the reason I would say no is thinking about Rick's chart. And we're still talking about the little bitty sliver right up at the top, and so we're not behind the curve. We have the potential to be behind the curve if we stand still. If we don't move, if we don't deploy more stations and more content and more devices, then certainly nobody else is sitting around waiting on us. So I don't think we're behind the curve now. I think we've got an excellent opportunity. Again, I applaud all of the work that Dyle's done. I know the work that Mobile 500 has done and that we at Capitol have done. I mean, it's NAB as well. I mean, but it's time to move, or we will look back and go, why did we do that?
Video is actually pretty hard to do. You have some big companies like Intel's been in the news recently trying to figure out video. They had a couple of shots at it. Now they're saying, this is somebody else to do. We really can't crack that nut. Apple's tried it a couple of times. Google's tried it a couple of times, most recently with their Chromecast product, which is a far less ambitious product, kind of feature set than the first time it took a shot at video and mastering that TV kind of ecosystem. So a lot of big, high-tech companies have taken a shot at it and tried to figure it out. No, I mean, people are still trying to figure it out. So we're still kind of in the days of what is this going to look like? The only thing we know for sure is that audiences and advertisers love it. So there's something there, and we just have to figure out what that field of dreams is going to look like.
Broadcasters are both content companies and a delivery system. And to the extent they're content companies, should be experimenting with every platform, whether it's broadcast, whether it's Wi-Fi, whether it's other types of IP-based delivery. That's part of how you have to get distribution for your content. But to the extent you're a delivery system, this is an important platform. You have a very unique opportunity to have some level of control over how your content is distributed in the marketplace, and whether that's tied to existing business models and existing customer bases that's available to you in the future, or whether it's directly to the consumer themselves. You have that option, but there is no option unless you move sooner rather than later. And I would say, as a distribution platform, broadcast on mobile is way behind cellular and Wi-Fi. As content companies, I know everyone here is distributing content online and on mobile and on different platforms. But as an industry, you have an opportunity here to light up stations and to make your content available on your own pipe to mobile devices.
It kind of reminds me of what Sam was saying, are we too late to the game, or are broadcasters too late to the game? And it's if you're not mobile, you're standing still, can't be standing still in this kind of a market environment. It's very, very fast moving. But there's just so much promise ahead. And it's like business people don't like risk. If they can reduce uncertainty, very good. Well, here's a case where a lot of the risk is already worked out of the marketplace. We know our audiences love it and are using it at high rates, high growth rates. We know that advertisers are using it and loving it at high growth rates. So it's like going back to the Field of Dreams. They're already there. We're just trying to build a stadium around the people that are there.
Any other questions? You guys have any last thoughts you want to share? Something you didn't say?
Well, I mean, I just kind of go back to, what it would take to reach those folks and getting on air, and not wanting to do risk. And if you looked at the risk, what is it going to cost me to do this? There just shouldn't be all this hand-wringing about it, because in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that much money to light up. It's not free. But it's a few things in life are, but it just really, if I were doing a risk analysis, there's more risk in not doing it, certainly than the small amount of money you're going to have to pay to light up and get on the air.
Yeah, I would say take a small chance and try offering cars in a color other than black.
I think these guys stated it very well. Keep your eye out for mobile TV and light your stations up. And with the pennies that it costs to do it, you have an opportunity to go where the consumers are and have a bit more control over your own destiny than you would if you were leaving it up to other bigger companies.
I'd like to thank each of our panelists for taking the time to be here today. Really productive session. But they'll stick around for a bit. I know Salil's got to catch a train soon, hopefully. It was supposed to be like an hour ago. But chat with them. This is a very important topic for our industry. That's why NAB spends a lot of time thinking about mobile. It's an idea, from what I heard, to sort of reflect back what I heard tonight. It's an idea and a concept that's going to happen one way or another. And we have an excellent opportunity as broadcasters to take advantage of it. Nothing's risk-free or free for that matter, but it's encouraging to see more and more broadcasts. It's encouraging to see what Dyle's doing. It's encouraging to see Mobile 500, sort of under new leadership. Now that the Fishers and Hubbard's sort of taking the reins here, there are exciting things ahead, and that's one reason you're going to keep seeing NAB talking about this, and it's a big issue for us going forward. So thank you all for attending. Appreciate it. Oh, great.
Thank you so much for being here and giving your time to us. There's a little travel kit.
All right, super.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thanks to NATAS. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.